At some point in life, the goal stops being thriving and starts being no one cried today, including me. And that's when peace becomes the goal. Not success, not happiness, just peace. Honestly, if everyone made it through the day emotionally intact, that's a solid win. Today's episode is called Peace is the Point. Welcome back to the GB podcast. Impossible is just an opinion. If you're new here, this podcast drops every Thursday, and each episode builds on the one before it. If these conversations resonate with you, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I'm your host, Jerry, and this season, The Shift, has been about internal change, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't come with a before and after photo or a dramatic announcement. In episode 1, we talked about awareness, that moment when you realize something inside you is shifting, even if you don't have the language for it yet. Episode 2, we talked about honesty, which sounds empowering until you realize it requires telling yourself the truth repeatedly. By episode 4, The Quiet Goodbye, we were learning how to let go of identities, expectations, and versions of ourselves that no longer fit. And in episode 7, Right for the Right Ones, we talked about alignment, how belonging doesn't require self-abandonment. Now, with only 2 episodes left this season, episode 8, Peace is the Point, brings all of that together. Because once you become aware, once you get honest, once you let go, once you realign, the next question becomes, how do you move forward without losing your peace or your patience? That's what today's episode is about. Before we go any further, just so we're on the same page, this episode is one way of looking at things, not the way. I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring a lot of this out myself, sometimes in real time, sometimes 5 minutes too late. There are so many philosophies, so many tools, so many opinions on peace. And honestly, if there were one perfect answer, we'd already be calm, rested, and emotionally regulated. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to offer questions, the kind that sit with you a little longer than advice. So, if this episode feels more like a pause than a solution, that's not a flaw, that's the design. Self love is usually framed as expansion, more confidence, more growth, more becoming, which sounds great until responsibility increases and your nervous system is running on caffeine, calendar alerts, and good intentions. At a certain point, self love starts to look different. It gets quieter, not because you gave up, but because you stopped auditioning for your own life. Peace starts to matter more than being right, more than being impressive, more than responding immediately. And that shift can feel uncomfortable because restraint doesn't get an applause. Research in psychology supports this. Studies on self regulation and long term well being show that people who prioritize emotional regulation over constant self improvement report lower stress, better decision making, and greater life satisfaction over time. Peace isn't passive, it's disciplined. I've been reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and what I love most about it is that it's not polished. He repeats himself. He reminds himself of the same things over and over, which feels very relatable. One line that stays with me: you have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength, which is comforting and also mildly inconvenient because it means peace isn't something we wait for, it's something we practice. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Cognitive behavioral research shows that stress responses are triggered less by events themselves and more by how quickly and automatically we interrupt them. Meditation, in this sense, isn't about silence, it's about interruption. Interrupting the spiral, interrupting the urge to react, interrupting the story before it becomes truth. Take 2 minutes. Ask yourself, what am I assuming right now? Is this within my control? What happens if I release what isn't? No fixing, no affirmations, just noticing. Which, let's be honest, it's harder than it sounds. Solitude gets misunderstood. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's recovery. Research from the University of Rochester shows that intentional solitude, when chosen, improves emotional clarity and self concept. Translation: 5 minutes alone by choice is regulating. 5 minutes alone because you're overwhelmed is different. Solitude allows your nervous system to finish a thought. Constant stimulation never lets you land anywhere. Sit in your car for 1 minute before walking inside. No phone, no scrolling, just for a second. Ask, what state am I in right now? That pause can save you from saying something you'll later apologize for. Ask me how I know. At some point, my decision making changed. Instead of asking, does this make sense? I started asking, does this feel peaceful? Not exciting versus boring, not right versus wrong, peaceful versus forced. Neuroscience shows the body processes safety before logic. If your shoulders tighten, your brain is already behind. Peace isn't weakness, it's information. Before deciding, ask, do I feel expansion or contraction imagining this? Am I choosing from clarity or urgency? Will this require me to override myself long term? Studies on decision fatigue show urgency increases regret and burnout. Pace tends to be quieter, but more honest. Motherhood doesn't offer ideal conditions for peace. It offers practice, repeatedly, sometimes loudly. Developmental psychology confirms children have distinct temperaments, which explains why what works beautifully for one child does absolutely nothing for the other. Peace in our home doesn't mean quiet, it means safety. Emotions can exist without escalation. Repairs matter more than perfection. And yes, sometimes peace looks like walking away, breathing, and coming back calmer than you left. Slow your breath first, lower your voice. Name emotion before behavior. Daniel Goleman's research on emotional intelligence shows self-regulation precedes influence, which means yelling less actually works better. Annoying, but true. In The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho writes, "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it." But that deeper message is this: Santiago suffers most when he ignores his intuition, not when things are hard. Alignment isn't ease, it's coherence. Peace doesn't mean no effort. It means you're not fighting yourself while you try. Ask, what feels calm here? What feels forced? What am I afraid will happen if I listen? Curiosity usually arrives before confidence. This is one perspective. Other frameworks exist. Other truths matter. This episode isn't an answer. It's a pause, the kind you didn't know you needed until you took it. Peace didn't arrive when life got easier. It arrived when I stopped arguing with myself, not to be better, but to be steadier. Thank you for spending this time with me. If something in today's episode, peace is the point, stayed with you, a thought, a question, a pause you didn't rush through, that's enough. We're in the final stretch of this season with 2 episodes left, and I'd love for you to stay with me through the rest of the shift. If you haven't already, subscribe, and we'll pick this up next Thursday. I'm your host, Jerry, and remember, impossible is just an opinion.